In Afghanistan, at least 18 people have been killed in a suicide attack. It happened outside a bank in Kunduz city, that's north of the capital, Kabul. Well, people were waiting to receive their salaries. At least 45 others have been injured. Aminullah Habibi is an independent senior analyst focusing on political and security issues in Afghanistan. He's joining us via Skype from London. Thank you very much for your time. I don't believe there's been a claim of responsibility so far, but from what we know about the attack, who is likely to be behind it?
Still we don't know. There are lots of groups in Afghanistan, according to the UN reports and yesterday's UN Security Council's comments from various representatives of the various countries. There are more than 20 terrorist groups still operating in Afghanistan, still there. But normally in the past, such attacks have been Daesh or rather ISIS-K had taken responsibility for that. And on this time, we don't know. But the problem is that it's more than 3 years and a half that the Taliban is back in power, and no recognition by the international community, and no process to get recognition or legitimacy through the Afghan process. So there is lots of resentments against them, and lots of issues, especially that currently the U.S. funding for Afghanistan is stopped, and has affected the...
Yeah, does the lack of recognition of the Taliban government and the lack of cooperation from countries, is it affecting the security situation in Afghanistan?
Yes, of course, because when there is no recognition, there is no development inside the country. There's no hope for the people that the country will go back to a kind of normalcy, and lots of groups inside the country using that as platform to employ disenfranchised people, to use them for their own terrorist activities. And given that the Taliban is still now in this economic problem as well, the hopelessness inside the country, drive people to join groups like Daesh and ISIS-K. So it's possible that ISIS-K might be behind this, but let's not forget that ISIS-K in Afghanistan is not so much independent as we had in the Middle East, and they are most likely connected to various countries in that region.
And the number of attacks, bomb blasts, suicide attacks in Afghanistan has markedly declined since the Taliban takeover. The US withdrew in 2021. But how much of a threat do armed groups such as the ones you've mentioned remain?
I think it is growing. It's true that the number of attacks have come down dramatically since the Taliban came to power. But the problem is that, before, most of those attacks were done by the Taliban. So when they are back in power, the assumption was that these attacks will, stop completely. But now we can see that, these attacks are gradually, using the same tactics and techniques that the Taliban were using, suicide bombing. Suicide bombing cannot be done by a simple group. There should be, some serious organizations or even maybe countries behind that. So it is possible that these insecurity and these bomb blasts, I'm afraid, might grow in Afghanistan, as we see that the Taliban is not moving so forward to get some form of legitimacy inside the country. It's through an Afghan process or even international legitimacy and support from the international community.
Aminullah Habibi, thank you very much for your analysis. We appreciate it.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.